Here's the problem with the whole back and forth between Tank and Keyshawn Davis. For starters, we all know Tank is public enemy number one when it comes to being the attraction and name everyone either clout chasers or actually wants to fight. Yes, Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney are also the more prominent names at the light and super lightweight divisions, but Tank is clearly the top dog when it comes to numbers and generating a buzz. If there was ever tiers, it'd be Tank, then Ryan, Dev, and everyone else. So when we see up-and-comers like Keyshawn Davis going out of his way to holler Tank's name in every other interview or even getting into this social media Twitter beef, of course it's going to turn heads and get everyone invested in the possibility that they could soon step into the ring with each other. Let's be real though, Tank may not be doing Canelo numbers, but Tank has put himself in a position where he's going to do whatever he wants whether people like it or not. It's no secret, that just is what it is. Tank is the face of this new generation of fighters. He is. So the possibility of him and Keyshawn facing each other is real, but is it something we really think will be happening anytime soon? I mean, you gotta ask yourself. They're not only under different promotions. Tank is not only a household name, but it doesn't matter what Keyshawn has to say about Tank being in his DMs, copping pleas, or what screenshots the two may expose to the public. Let's say Tank's trainer Kenny Ellis did propose that Keyshawn faces Tank at 140. Let's just assume Keyshawn's telling the truth about that, right? Or that they want him to move to 140 because they didn't want him at 135. He's a threat at 135, the same division Shakur Stevenson's at. But okay. What a lot of fans gotta understand is Keyshawn is the one calling Tank out. Keyshawn is the one with Tank's name in his mouth. Therefore, Keyshawn should already know he's got to be open to whatever request the A-side has. Because outside of us hardcore fans, no one knows who Keyshawn Davis is. So that automatically places him on the B side. Shit, at this point, he's the C side. That motherfucker D side. I said it before, man. You had Tank Davis, then you have Davis from Wish, which is Keyshawn Davis. Now, he's talented, don't get me wrong. Keyshawn, that's a little strong fucker, and he can box his ass off. I'm sure to many, he's very reminiscent of a young Terrence Crawford. But if he's gonna call the top name out, then he has to follow suit. You can't say, oh, I'm not leaving 135 until Tank fights me, but then act perplexed that Tank's team might want to fight at 140. When you're basically alluding to the possibility of you moving up as well. There has to be logic here. If not, then maybe Kenny Ellis is right. And maybe Keyshawn is just using Tank's name to promote himself in his brother's event on ESPN this weekend. Hey, kudos to him. It's very strategic and more than likely what's really going on. However, someone has to let Keyshawn Davis and any other prospects, because he's basically a prospect, that they must establish themselves first instead of trying to leapfrog themselves into the limelight with someone who has accomplished way more and has way more to lose at the end of the day. And speaking of prospects, let's talk about another young up-and-comer who looks to have a promising career ahead of him. You might have heard of him. His name is Floyd Schofield Jr., aka Kid Austin. Let me just start off by saying I'm a fan of Kid Austin. You know, I like his talent, and I believe he has a bright future in the sport of boxing if his career is handled correctly. However, after last Saturday, he did himself no favors if he was trying to convince the boxing world that he should be in there with the likes of Gervonta Davis or Shakur Stevenson. Like, I know him and his pops have been adamant that they not only deserve and would do the most with their shot, but it's clear as day that this boy isn't ready. And it's not even about the knockdown. Look, fuck the knockdown. Because to me, Kid Austin looked to be more fatigued than anything going down the stretch. And if it wasn't for the shape he's in, I'd say maybe he should be eyeing a move to 140. But Schofield clearly went into business for himself on Saturday, and it almost cost him. It almost cost him big time. You know, it's crazy because although they may have different styles and the attributes seem to be the complete opposite, Kid Austin and his pops, Floyd Sr., remind me a lot of the Haneys, Dev and Bill. I mean, yeah, Devin's dad is Bill Haney and Floyd Schofield's dad is Bushwick Bill, you know. However, the similarities are there. Both father-son duos are extremely outspoken. Both have that bravado and borderline arrogance, and both seem to want to bark up what many believe is the wrong tree by calling out certain peers. To be honest, that fight on Saturday damn near reminded me of when Devin Haney got rocked by Jorge Linares after dominating majority of that fight. Just like Haney, instead of cruising and outboxing his guy, Kid Austin decided to be stubborn and got over aggressive. Just like Haney, instead of fighting smarter, he damn near punched himself out and was fading late in the fight. And just like Haney, he was hugging his opponent all up against the ropes. Yo, I thought Shock said Conceicao was a vet at Holden. Well, Schofield must have been watching ESPN's broadcast before his fight and said, "Hold my beer." That's what it looked like to me. I want to say the only difference between Kid Austin and Devin Haney in this situation is it's actually their fathers, because unlike Bill Haney, Schofield Sr. was giving his son the right advice in the corner. Now, he might have made him a bit more anxious than he may have already been after that third round, but that goes without saying since Bill Haney had Dev trying to be something that he's not. Furthermore, proving that these father trainers have a huge impact on their sons, whether positive or negative. Now, if you're a Haney fan, you're probably saying Kid has a ways to go before you can compare the two. Devin is the youngest undisputed champion in a 4-belt era, blase. I get that. But remember, Haney was a prospect before he was a champion. And here's the thing with prospects getting ahead of themselves and why that off button has to be present. I'm sure the Schofields know they can't afford to make any of these same mistakes with a fighter like Shakur Stevenson, and they for damn sure can't do this with someone like Tank Davis, who would make Kid Austin's whole world go pitch black pulling stunts like this here. Which is probably why Oscar De La Hoya's in no rush to see Schofield in there with any of them, and for good reason. So it's funny when we hear people like Timothy Bradley calling Tank a 30-year-old prospect due to the level of competition on Tank's resume. And although I believe Tank needs to start delivering us fights with guys we actually want to see, this boy Kid Austin just showed you what a prospect really looks like and what rookie mistakes can be made if they're stubborn and undisciplined. It's a no-brainer why Kenny Ellis was asking and had this to say on his IG story, because the double standards are crazy. Kid Austin is 22 years old, and him, Keyshawn, or any of these other youngins who can and more than likely will have some hiccups in the ring are looked at as babies who just need a learning experience, while Tank is and has been held to a standard where y'all wanted him to just hop in there with Vasily Lomachenko at his peak, when Tank was still up and coming. Where when Tank was the same age Kid Austin is now, at 22 years old, Tank defeated and stopped Jose Pedraza to become the IBF Super Featherweight champion. So to call him a 30-year-old prospect after he was a prospect you and everyone else already held to a higher standard due to his gifts is crazy. Don't get me wrong, I don't always agree with Tank's decision making, but it's like, come on now, damned if you do, damned if you don't. If we're going to talk about prospects, let's talk about the actual prospect, since this is probably one of the deepest eras when it comes to promising prospects, with a group that consists of names like, Carmel Moten, Abdullah Mason, Emiliano Vargas, Xander Zayas, Richard Torres, Keyshawn Davis, and of course Kid Austin, to name a few. The topic of discussion should really be what they have to do to get better, all the while remaining disciplined, and why they should focus on the process rather than superiors like Shakur Stevenson and Tank Davis. As a matter of fact, didn't Floyd Schofield want to smoke with Keyshawn? Isn't that like a thing? Wasn't it supposed to be Kid facing Ashton H2O before he got clapped up? Doesn't Keyshawn have a beef with Frank the Ghost Martin? Maybe those should be the caliber of matchups these boys are focused on. I don't know, you tell me. Pop off.